Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, August 20, 2025. Time in Texas, about 11 a.m. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share, and for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. And I'd like to say thank you to Kathy O.C. for extra support for my channel. Some of the sources I'll use today: God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Daily Mail, Hal Turner, Rebecca Jones, a climate scientist, Space Weather, formerly Suspicious Observers, Daily Excellence with Mike from Around the World, David NINO RODRIQUEZ. Some of the things we'll cover: Earth tilt, martial law, President Trump, no planes for Ukraine, and Ukraine, rest in peace, 1.7 million. And the U.S. military versus the Venezuela cartel, touted to be 4.5 million strong. So that's going on. I'm going to begin with the weather updates for Erin and two other tropical systems that could be making up. So we have Erin fluctuating between a Cat 1, Cat 2 that is predicted now from Florida all the way up to New Jersey to produce high waves, dangerous undercurrents all along the coast. And in some areas, we know yesterday I reported they're predicting, like in North Carolina and South Carolina, waves possibly as high as 30 feet. So that's going on. The report we have this morning, 11 a.m., are the winds at 110 miles per hour, barometric at 941, which means it's increasing in intensity, moving forward at 13 miles per hour. Expected to skirt the eastern coast of the U.S. for until Friday or the weekend, and then turn east away from the U.S. Still a very dangerous storm for the people along the eastern coast. We have a second system now out in the Atlantic. 10% chance of development in 48 hours, 80% chance of development in 7 days. Moving west at 15 miles per hour. So it would be moving toward the U.S. I have seen some models, and they also are predicting this will eventually turn away from the U.S. We have a third system coming off of Africa. 40% chance development in 48 hours, 40% in 7 days. Moving also west at 15 miles per hour. So that's going on. We need to be in prayer. And we have, yes. So I'll also explain some more climate information, climate change information, some government release of public information changes, what could possibly be a change in the U.S. government's relationship with its citizens, up to and possibly including martial law. So we have another commenter on Facebook saying a Texas breeze feels like a hairdryer on high. And I agree with that. Sometimes when I'm trying to decide what I should put my thermostat on, or should I use my dehumidifier, or I go outside and bam, your glasses fog up. It's that humid and that hot. And we have this. So there was a wildfire in Israel in the area of El Araj, which is the north shore of the Galilee Sea. And when they were cleaning up after the wildfire, they discovered ruins of the biblical town Bethsaida, home of some of the apostles of Jesus, Peter, Andrew, and Philip. So we see more corroboration always for the Bible. And we have this. So I'm going to explain some of the climate changes that are taking place, changes in the U.S. government. That could also include martial law. Okay, we have a changing Earth, which is tilting north. We had corroboration recently from the government that the tropical convergence zone at the equator has moved north 151 miles. We're also getting that the AMOC is changing. That's the Atlantic Meridian Ocean Currents. So we would have Africa, we have the U.S., we have South America. This ocean current that would move up the Atlantic to carry warm, salty water, which is required for climate modification. In other words, a seasonal change in warm climate and cold climate. So this is also changing. Now, on YouTube, Space Weather, formerly Suspicious Observers, also brings this out, that a joint report between the U.S. and UK climate scientists has come out talking about the South Atlantic anomaly. What is that? So the Earth has within it a dynamo that generates at the poles our electromagnetic shield to protect the Earth from the sun's radiation. I've been looking at the Earth's shield for about 30 years. My area is Life Earth Science. And the shield around the Earth has been decreasing dramatically, and it's speeding up its decrease in the last 5 to 10 years of protecting the Earth from the sun's radiation. We are entering a period when it's very likely a pole shift will occur. This means the north and south, the dynamo inside the Earth that generates the Earth's electromagnetic shield will stop. The model I favor has it stopping for 30 minutes and then restarting. When this occurs, the north and south magnetic polarity will switch. In other words, with your compass, it would normally point toward the north, the stronger magnetic pull right now. After the pole shift, the compass would point to the South Pole as being the stronger magnetic pull. When this occurs, and it occurs on a cyclic basis of 10 to 15,000 years, and it's also correlated with changes in space. Now, we have multiple things going on in space. We have an interstellar object, some people say is alien. I believe that's it could be an object that's under some type of intelligent control, which could be AI, because it can engage in anti-gravity acceleration. So that's that. We have also objects coming in widely called Planet X or Nibiru. We also have changes going on in the sun from some type of massive object coming into our solar system, widely called a binary sun, a second sun. All of these things are logical, and there's scientific data to support it. Okay, so it'll cause changes in the sun, changes in the earth, and we're seeing that now. Now we have this, and the South Atlantic anomaly, the new information coming out. So what the South Atlantic anomaly is a dip in the Earth's electromagnetic shield, letting in much more radiation from the sun. They call it the South Atlantic anomaly. It initially started out years ago in this area. Now, according to the latest data, it has grown and possibly split, and now covers most of South America all the way over to Africa. So this is another climate factor affecting change. How's that going to change for us? We could see seasonal changes, hotter weather, colder weather, shorter seasons. We could definitely see with the moving of the tropical convergence zone, 151 miles north, tilting of the earth, we will see changes in crops. This pattern of the South Atlantic anomaly is predicted to change the type of crops that will grow in South America and also lead to a warming and more rain over Africa and all the way into the Middle East, leading to a greening of the Sahara. ADAPT 2030 has been putting out good information on this topic, the greening of the Sahara, for a couple of years. Okay, now what we're seeing are also changes in the U.S. government with regard to giving public information to its citizens. And this would include, and the update today for space weather. We did have solar wind coming yesterday, G1. It's predicted a G2 today. We may see auroras down to the top 1/3 of the U.S. So that's going on. Now, we have this coming out from Rebecca Jones. She's a climate scientist. She's also worked for the federal government as a data analyst, who put out yesterday a video saying that she had received multiple memos, emails about, and memos, excuse me, from multiple U.S. government agencies that would include the Department of Agriculture, the CDC, also NOAA. We get our weather information from that. I'm also postulating the USGS and pretty much all government agencies are going to stop providing public information to the American citizens excuse me, and to the world. And we have this National Hurricane, the National Hurricane Center this year, excuse me, wanted to stop their website, that's public information, where anyone can go on and get the latest information about hurricanes. And there was such a strong public outcry, excuse me, that they decided to wait until this hurricane season is over. What this means is, according to Rebecca Jones, and she had formerly worked for the Florida Department of Health as a data analyst. She's currently a climate scientist who's putting out this information that multiple memos from multiple U.S. federal government agencies say stop releasing all information to the public. That would mean the normal sites I go to, like National Hurricane Center, NOAA weather updates, NOAA for space weather information, and so on. From the Department of Agriculture, they would put out public information about parasites or changes in climate as it related to livestock and crops. So that's going on. And she was very upset, Rebecca Jones. Now, I have noticed a change in the type and quality of information the federal government has been putting out in the sites I routinely go to, like for weather and space weather. I know about 2 to 3 years ago, Stan Deyo, a physicist, stated that the U.S. Navy had stopped putting out a technical website whereby Stan could use the astronomy information they were putting out, and he could effectively predict earthquakes. His thinking was he could do this and others in the world, and so the U.S. Navy, the U.S. government, cut that off to the public. So we've been seeing for several years changes in the availability and the quality of public information the U.S. government is putting out. Now, I'm not fully going to be critical of the U.S. government for shutting down public information. As American citizens, we will continue to get information from the federal government regarding weather and life-threatening situations and so on. The difference will be that the only source of our information will be government-controlled information being put out. That eliminates, like, independents like myself who have experience and a little bit of knowledge in some and weather areas and so on, of looking at the information and giving my assessment. Now, also critical would be the cutting off of the USGS information regarding earthquakes. And as I've demonstrated, we are in a period of dramatic climate and environmental changes on the earth and the sun, and we will see increases in earthquakes and volcanoes. I'm not totally critical of the U.S. government wanting to get ahead of this curve of what I would reasonably believe would be catastrophic, life-threatening situations on multiple climate and weather areas. The U.S. government simply wants to control the information being put out. Now, coupled with this is information put out on Daily Excellence last night by Mike from around the world. We know Mike is on Pastor Paul Begley's Thursday night programs. Mike works for the government. Mike knows stuff. And Mike said the U.S. government soon will federalize all law enforcement in the U.S. We've seen recently President Trump with the National Guard in Washington, D.C. We've seen President Trump also say that he believes it should be done in Chicago and California. But this statement by Mike, and I believe Mike was directed to put this information out, possibly as a gauge of what is American sentiment. To federalize all law enforcement in the U.S. would mean martial law. I'll cover martial law more probably tomorrow about how it affects American citizens. But in my mind, these two things go together. This one, the U.S. government stopping the release of all public information and wanting to control all the information that's being put out about climate and medicine and parasites and so on, earthquakes, volcanoes, to get ahead of the curve of what could be cataclysmic events in the U.S. And that coupled with that would be the U.S. government in control of law enforcement. I see those two going together. So it's good to be in prayer for America. So that's going on. And now we have this. So we have, we had a White House presser yesterday, I believe, and President Trump was, the information being put out by Caroline Leavitt was a successful meeting between President Trump, President Putin last Friday in Alaska, and that in the National Guard taking over law enforcement in D.C., arrests of illegals have dramatically gone up, including many criminal MS-13 gang members, and that President Trump is currently moving homeless camps out of Washington, D.C., employing the resources and coordination of multiple federal agencies. So that's going on. And we have this, that the FBI, since President Trump has been president in 2025, have arrested 19,000 illegals. So that's going on. So we do see effective things coming about. I submit also this. These moves by the U.S. government to control public information, to federalize law enforcement, to relocate homeless out of major cities, would also be things that a nation would do if it were prepping for war. There's a possibility, I believe, we may see also some warlike events inside the U.S., primarily from the cartels. So that's going on. We have this from Through the Eyes of Ania K., a Polish journalist, that the leader of Germany, Merz, former BlackRock, and we know that's a deep state organization, wants the war to continue in Ukraine because Europe, the EU leaders, while they're destroying the economies of the individual European nations, the EU leaders get their kickback from money going to Ukraine. Ukraine has been known for decades as the #1 money laundering nation on earth. So that's going on. Now we have this. So a group of Russian hackers hacked the Ukraine military, government, and intel. Some of the Russian groups being cited by Hal Turner's intel are Killnet, Palach Pro, UserSec, and BREITBART. And they have determined that dead and missing in Ukraine, current accurate numbers are 1.7 million since the conflict began in 2022. The Russian hackers also gained list of the nations selling weapons to Ukraine, how many weapons and the type that Ukraine has, and also personal information about Ukraine's government, military, and intel individuals. So that's going on. And now we have this from Stephen Gardner. So the U.S. government also preps to arrest many deep staters. And toward that end, President Trump put in place a new deputy director of the FBI. We currently have Kash Patel, director, Dan Bongino, deputy director. Now another deputy director is coming in, formerly an AG from Missouri, who has a financial background. And it's believed he's being put in place to accurately work with the DOJ in tracking money. One area would be the HRC campaign money. And in the next 30 days, the FBI plans to investigate and interview HRC regarding pay to play, George Soros or his son, former President Obama, regarding Russiagate. And it's come out recently that Kash Patel and his team, President Trump's team, he's put in place in the FBI, located thousands of documents relating to the Russiagate, the U.S. Presidential coup in 2020. And these documents were stuffed in burn bags in hidden rooms at the FBI. So that's going on. And other people to be investigated by the FBI: Letitia James, mortgage fraud, Adam Schiff, and it's coming out from Hal Turner and BREITBART. Adam Schiff has lawyered up regarding just the tip of the iceberg information coming out about him. He's a Rothschild, you know, regarding mortgage fraud. We know that Al Capone, a gangster, the U.S. government couldn't get him, with enough evidence to convict him of smuggling and murder and so on. So they got him on tax evasion. So yeah, mortgage fraud works for me. We have this from David NINO Rodriguez, that it's estimated, I put out yesterday that President Trump has put 3 destroyers and 4,000 Marines in the Caribbean Sea adjacent to Venezuela. We know in the past 7 days, the U.S. government has put out a bounty on Maduro, the president of Venezuela, of $50 million. And it's coming out that Maduro is the head of the cartels in Venezuela and works closely with major groups such as the CCP, the Mexican cartel Sinaloa, and so on. In response to the U.S. moving destroyers and Marines, Maduro says he's raised up 4.5 million strong militia groups inside Venezuela. I got this to say. These militias most likely won't last a week, pitted against the greatest military in the history of the world, the U.S. military, that also has Space Force capability. So we can look forward to major confrontations, I believe, with the cartels in Venezuela, the CCP in Venezuela, the Iranians in Venezuela, and also in South America and Mexico. So that goes along with the U.S. government prepping for martial law. And we have this. Yes, recently, we know in the past 7 to 10 days, President Trump made an action that was applauded by American truckers. And he said, all American CDL truckers must be able to speak English. And that subsequent, after that, several hundred or maybe thousands of illegals who had CDL license who could not speak English were stopped from engaging in trucking and were deported. Just in the last day or so, an illegal CDL holder who could not read nor speak English made an illegal U-turn in California, excuse me, and killed 3 U.S. citizens. So way to go, President Trump. And I would also like to say this, President Trump, with regard to Ukraine, I do not favor the U.S. as a security measure after some semblance of stopping of the military conflict in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. I do not favor at all supplying U.S. planes to provide air coverage for NATO in Ukraine. I say no planes for Ukraine. And also, the American people want all assistance to Ukraine stopped. No more money, no more weapons, no more intel. The American people do not support war. Now, we may be forced to engage in war-like events versus the cartels who are invading America and are killing American citizens. It is one thing to engage in war when you are being attacked, as opposed to supporting a politically generated war effort against another nation who is not attacking America, and that would be Russia. The American people do not support war in Ukraine. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.